Sweet. We started at a perfect time. We got to hear one of those famous Mike Panozzo coughs.
There you go. I'm still getting over COVID. Well, it's just like,
Did you have COVID?
yeah, after the trip to the BCA show and the bowling, I went to 2 trade shows in Las Vegas
Oh,
back to back over a 9-day period. There wasn't a chance in the world I was coming back clean.
yeah. I completely understand that. It's basically I feel like every single time you go into one of these events now, you're at least 1 in 3 to get it. At least 1 in 3.
Yeah, it's a um, you know, but I didn't get it bad. It just it was like a summer head cold, but
Yeah.
then I just this cough kind of just lingers for a while. So
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
I'll try to hit the mute
Chris,
button.
how are you
Hello.
doing, buddy?
All good. How are you?
Living the dream. I'm going to be going to Illinois later today to get down there for the Racks on the Rocks, the event being put on by Omega Billiards. So that's going to be pretty fun. I got a nice 4-hour drive ahead of me today, so at least I'll have a podcast to listen to on my way down,
That's
right?
right. Is that Peoria?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So that'll be fun. I can listen to my voice, Mike's voice, and Chris's lovely voice the entire way down. I'll probably just put us on repeat. That'll be so much fun.
It'd be like a loop.
Yeah, but so no pressure, you guys. But if you guys are funny, that might make my trip go a little bit quicker. Who knows? Make some jokes.
What event are you playing in while you're there?
I don't know if I'm going to play in any. If there's an opening, I'm going to play in the open bar table 10-ball event. But as of right now, I'm just going down there and getting a booth with the podcast and on board. So I'll be down there basically just doing that. Although I might end up playing the event if there's an opening, and I can find somebody to help run the booth, which I think I have somebody actually to help run the booth. So if I can get into the open event, I will.
Cool.
Yeah, good.
And Mike, kind of relevant, although you weren't there for any of the pool you were saying, but you were at the World Games for at least a little while. Why don't you tell us what that experience was like?
I didn't see any more than anybody who was trying to watch pool from outside of Birmingham. So, the World Games, it's interesting. It's a cool event. It's a mini Olympics for sports that aren't in the Olympics, right? And so you've got 3,000, athletes from around the world playing in all these different venues in a city, and it's very controlled. There's, you need badges and credentials to go anywhere, and you go through metal detectors, and it's a pretty big deal. I was down there to watch the 10-pin bowling for a couple days, and then I had to get back to the office before billiards started. But I did get over there when they were setting up and when the players had gotten there to practice. The arena was actually very nice. It was a nice setup, 2 pool tables, a snooker table, and a carom table. And then they had a practice room with all 4 tables as well. And so it was, the players seemed excited. The conditions seemed good. There was seating for, 500 or so in there. I didn't really get much of a feel for what kind of crowds they had based on what little streaming we did see and from what photographs we saw. But, it's a good event. It's an important event for a lot of the countries that participate in it, right? Because they get funding for medals in sports at international sport festivals like this. So, for someone like Yap, for someone like Beato, for some of the Europeans, certainly South American players, it can be a pretty interesting, it can be a pretty big deal to come out of there with a medal. I don't know, I haven't talked to Josh Filler, but I don't know what kind of anything they might get from the German Billiard Federation or German government by winning medals. But so it's a cool event. It's a cool event.
And of course, it's the gateway to eventually getting pool into the Olympics, if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, it's one of the stepping stones to getting there. I mean, there's sports that have made the jump from World Games to Olympics, and there's sports that have been in the Olympics that are now back into World Games. Like women's softball was there this year, and that had previously been in the Olympics when it was tied into men's baseball. So they're back there. There's some pretty big sports, and there lacrosse is in there, and then there's some really weird fringe sports. Disc flying, which is essentially playing frisbee in your backyard, and floorball, which I grew up. We used to call it rat hockey, which was when it was summertime and you went down to the church basement and played hockey with sticks and a rubber ball and just ran around the floor. That's what they do. But it is a really pretty cool event to go check out sometime. I was disappointed in the preparation and marketing that went into it in the U.S. ahead of time. I don't know how many people knew it was happening. I don't know if billiard rooms and leagues in the southeast part of the U.S. were contacted and talked to about getting tickets or whatever, but it just didn't seem like there was a lot going on from that standpoint.
Well, I mean, this is kind of the struggles of the Olympics, right? Unless you have like an ESPN type of news outlet that's going to cover what's happening, or you have, I guess in this case, CBS had rights to this. Yeah, so CBS. I mean, unless you have like a CBS promoting all of these sports individually, they're going to promote at the end of the day, CBS is going to promote the sports that they think is going to bring the eyeballs, and I don't think pool's going to be one of those. But whose job does this fall on to actually market these events, to actually get the word out there for them?
I would imagine the WCBS, which is the governing body for, the pool federation, which is WPA, the billiard federation, which is the UMB, and the Carom Federation, which is the IBF. And so I don't know. I mean, I've tried to dig in a little bit to how the funding works with those organizations in terms of, I don't know if they get funding from the World Games to help promote this, if it all falls on the World Games Committee. I would imagine some of it falls on the federation that's in the host country, which in this case would be the BCA, from standpoint of pool, billiards, and snooker, right? The BCA is the governing body for all three in the U.S. So, I'm not 100% sure who it falls entirely on. I just know that not a lot got done, in my estimation.
I mean, I didn't see much. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week on the podcast, and I know from that Ed Ladawi took that because, of course, he's on the BCA board and he shared it out to a few spots, but he shared it after we kind of said there's nothing going on. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I guess Chris, coming from somebody from Europe, I have to assume that you knew it was going on. What kind of deal is it over there?
It's not promoted or advertised anywhere. I started following the World Games Instagram account.
Actually, the UK didn't have a representative either, did they?
No, I was just about to ask Mike. I don't know what the criteria for getting in is. Darren won it a few years ago, and I know he said it's the most important thing he's ever won.
Kelly was in it this year and she won. It's a European Pocket Billiard Federation.
Okay.
They're the European. So when the WCBS reaches out to the WPA and says, okay, who are your pool representative? And WPA says, okay, Europe gets 3 representatives, US gets 3 representatives, Asia gets 2, whatever it is, and then it's up to those national continental federations to kind of come up with the pecking order. So with the EPBF, I think it was Kelly was in as defending world champion. I think they had if you won the European Championship 9-ball, you got in. I don't know if there was Euro Tour rankings for the men. It was the same thing. It was like a Euro Tour rank, a European Championship win, European Federation ranking or world ranking. I don't remember exactly how they did it. But in Europe, they went through a few players because obviously Christina and Margaret were both supposed to play from Europe, and neither one did. So they went down to Veronica and then Pia Filler. As along with Kelly. So yeah, from the men's standpoint, it was Sanjan won the European Championship.
No, right? Fedor beat him. Filler beat him in the final, right?
I think they didn't use this year's European Championship.
Oh, okay.
Right. I think he won the European. Was it 10 ball or 9? He won one of the European championships. Senjin did.
Niels
Josh.
won. Niels won one. I don't know that that's true. I think he did lose in the finals.
Yeah, because he missed the 9-ball hill with Filler, right?
That was
the European Championship.
That was the European Championships in 9-ball to Josh, right?
Yeah.
But I think that was last year's.
Okay.
Nope.
No?
Yeah, because last year's was held late and this year's was held early.
Last year's was in Turkey in like October, November or something, right?
Correct.
It was very late.
Yeah, maybe you're right there.
So,
And
I mean, they went through, the long and short of it is they did use a merit-based system that they had spelled out to determine who played.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously the communication, the transparency needs to get better in the pool world, and then, to Matchroom's credit, I mean, they're taking their step. I mean, they're making everything transparent as much as they can with the new ranking system, but it's probably time for the WPA, the BCAPL to,
Well, the BCAPL doesn't have anything to do with this.
I'm talking about in the American side, because like we had to discuss this last week, and we ended up, of course, the BCA rankings. But how do the BCA rankings work, where Tyler Steyer and Hunter Lombardo are getting invites when there's 3 invites in the U.S.?
Well, because for one, there were 2 invites in the U.S. There were 3 invites for the BCA.
Yeah. I know that Hunter got an invite to
Canada, so they gave him to John Mora. Then they picked Shane was ranked number 1, and in the BCA rankings, they've always said, we're using the BCA rank as far as transparency goes. This stuff's all out there if you kind of look for it. So they're not hiding anything, but the BCA rankings is 8 tournaments over the past year. And the issue with the BCA rankings, it includes the Predator events, which Skylar doesn't play in, which Billy doesn't play in. So they get no points for those events, right? Tyler and Hunter play in those events. Hunter got in because Kachi bailed at the last second.
I knew that.
And didn't leave them enough time to get another European player in.
Can we just take a step back and look at how many times that this happens to Eklund and not anyone else? Yeah. I can think of 3 major events.
Nothing happened to Eklund. He bailed.
Well, I get that. I understand that. But the last second dropouts from Eklund, this is the third one. This is the third time in 1.5 calendar years that I can think of him dropping out of a tournament at the last second, whether it was visa issues or whether it's just him dropping out. It's
well, I mean, he's got this reputation as kind of just doing his own thing when he wants to do his own thing, and it could be at the 11th hour, it could be whatever. So that's just his MO. Or at least it's getting apparent. It's apparent that it's getting to be his MO, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's how Hunter got in, and that's why Skylar and Billy weren't considered, or a Shane Wolford or something like that,
or an Oscar.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess, yeah. It seems like why does it? I mean, maybe we have to bring on somebody from BCA to figure this out, but I don't understand why they don't open up to more events. If it's just 8 events, I mean, if you're basing your rankings off of 8 events when there's at least 30 usable events throughout the calendar year, it's just,
what events do they use? So they use 4 North American Predator events, the 4 or 5 that are in.
Yeah, they use the US 14.1 championship, the International Open,
Predator. It's got to be the Michigan, the Ohio, the Arizona, Las Vegas.
No, there were 4 Predator events and there were 4 non. So the non-Predator events were the American 14.1, the International,
the US Open.
I don't believe the US Open was, because the timing makes that more than a year ago.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not 100% sure. But it was spelled out on their rankings thing. So it's just that's what it's coming from. So again, it's one of those issues where what events are important to you, and if an event's important to you, you make sure that you're playing the events that are in that ranking system. right?
Sure.
So, you know, it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Sorry, everybody who's tuning in. The internet actually in my apartment has been out all day, and so I'm actually using the bandwidth for my phone as like as a hotspot. So it's probably not going to be nearly as good today as it is normally, because I probably only have like 30 up or 30 down with my phone, and I normally have 300 up and 300 megabytes down. So I mean, the internet's been out all day long. I don't know what's going on with it, but sorry for any lags. I mean, when I upload the audio podcast, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, well, thank you to Matt Poland for posting that. The other two events were Turning Stone and Derby City 9-ball.
Sure, that makes sense.
Okay.
Although, yeah.
So, and
there's
you know,
a
they're
lot of other
using
events that-
10-ball, they're using 9-ball, they're using straight pool. You know, their idea is that this isn't, you know, based on one discipline. Your ranking in the BCA is based on your participation in events that they're gonna, you know, that show all this various ability. So, yeah.
Sure. Well, I guess talking about let's talk about. I've always found this, and we've had this discussion on the podcast several times, and I always find it interesting. The goal, of course, is to get pool in the Olympics, and so no one's going to argue whether or not we want pool in the Olympics. Every single one of us, raise your hand if you don't want pool in the Olympics. Yep. So the idea is pool worthy of the Olympics? Because we've had this debate on the podcast before, and I guess take it away, Mike. What do you think? Do you think pool needs to be in the Olympics?
You know, throw it in my lap, huh? So, you know, there's various ways of looking at, does it deserve to be in the Olympics? There's the viewpoint based on worldwide participation. There's the viewpoint based on, is it a sport? Is it a high level athletic endeavor? And then there's the final basis, which is the IOC is going to use, which is it revenue producing? Okay, so you know, you see the sports that they've added in the last couple of years, breakdancing and, you know, whatever
BMX.
else. Yeah, so
Surfing.
they're looking at sports that gear toward the younger people, and younger people is marketing opportunity, right? So we all know that pool skews older demographically, or at least that's what it always has, and not enough effort is put in to make it seem like a younger sport. So it's not really all that attractive to IOC members based on that. It's not all that attractive to IOC members, I think, because it's been around for a million years and is still being argued as to whether it's a sport. So I think those things play against pool. The thing going for pool is its participation worldwide is you know, unmatched with most of the sports that they're talking about. It's its participation and organized level in so many countries. You know, but I think organization tends to be a little bit of a problem in pool too. You know, getting that point across that we have all these people, we represent all these people as an industry. So that's been a little bit tough. Would I love to see pool in the Olympics? Yeah, you know, it's I don't know how much it would change what pool is, but you know, it would be a great thing for sure. I don't know if pool was in the Olympics, would you see it as often as you see basketball in the Olympics, as often as you see the other sports in the Olympics? No, you'd probably get your 5 minutes of, you know, curling fame here and there, and you know, but it's still
don't
well, no,
compare pool to curling.
that's definitely grown in the last couple of Winter Olympics for sure.
I still don't know how, but
yeah, people
I find myself watching it. There's something about sweeping there's something about sweeping a freaking ice floor of ice and like watching these people skate down and this rocks crashing into each other. There's just something so strangely satisfying about that. I don't even and if you ask all the people who find that fascinating, not a goddamn one of them can tell you what the rules even are. I've watched it probably 6 years, Olympics in a row, and I still have zero idea what the rules are. All I know is,
you know, you can't argue with me about the, you know, whether that's a sport and has great athletes. I mean, it's played in about 3 places where the snow gets over 2 feet a year, and that's about it. But you know, it's entertaining to some people, I guess, and they love it. So Does pool fit into that category? I don't. Who knows? What's your thought on pool, Chris?
I don't know what the fascination is with getting Q sports into the Olympics. I don't get it. The Olympics comes around once every 4 years. There's no mainstream sport that survives on Olympic coverage. Okay, things like curling and niche sports. That's not niche sports. They might get a bit of airtime every 4 years, but I mean,
I blowing up curling.
I don't know what the fascination is. And being on the Olympics isn't going to blow up any sport. I wouldn't think.
I think you're right. I think you're right, but again, I don't think it hurts either. And someone commented, if they get the same coverage in the World Games and the Olympics they get in the World Games, it's not worth it. But to me, it's not about how much airtime you get in the Olympics. It's what Olympics means. It's what a medal means to all these federations that are involved in pool from around the world, and how much that helps them in their own part of the world put money into developing athletes, get marketing sponsorship, get things like that. That helps grow the sport, organically, right? So that's, to me, why it's important, and that's why we should always have that fascination with it, because it's a rising tide type of thing. So it can help pool all around the world just by saying we contest for Olympic medals. And for a lot of countries, if you got into the Olympics and you won a medal, you're getting a pretty good chunk of change from your countries. So it's not everybody's the U.S., not everybody's Great Britain when it comes to how we treat Olympians and the effort we put into winning medals in Olympic competition. There's a lot of value to that, around the world for the sport. So it's something you should always strive for. But, and like I said, even on its own scale, the World Games kind of helps a lot in that area as well, because it is something that a lot of nations, sports federations, national sports federations look at as a positive thing and something that they can, get funding for.
I mean, going off of what you said, there's a lot of what you said, Mike. I guess the first thing I guess I'll organize it into this: the pros and cons of it. Like the pros. The reason why I think it can be a great Olympic sport, like one of the best Olympic sports out there, is if they were to run. So let's say every country got 2 players to go to the Olympics, which, 1 or 2 players, whatever it is. How many countries do you think could realistically win the Olympics? Chris, what do you think?
Oh, bloody hell, I don't know.
Mike, I would say 40 countries could win. Just my guess. There's at least 40 countries.
If pool is in the Olympics?
Yes. If every country can send 2 players, I think there could be 40 countries that could win a gold medal. Just to guess.
I mean, it depends. I mean, you got to look at, if pool got in the Olympics, how many athletes would they allow? How many, medals would they give out? Things like, there's all those types of things. So, and what these Olympic sports have to go through is like what they went through at the World Games, which is, you've got to make it entertaining. You've got to make it fast. And so we'd have 32 men and 32 women or 64, and it would be single elimination, shorter races, and bang, bang, bang. So then all of a sudden the field opens up to, anybody could win, which is great. That's what you really want, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at basketball, is there any question who's going to win the gold medal? It's just a matter of by how much and which country gets second. I mean, it's always going to come down to being 4 countries, something like that. It's the U.S., Lithuania's there a lot. Italy's there, or not Italy. Spain is there quite a bit. Australia usually makes a run. There's a bunch of countries that kind of are in that mix, but it's the U.S. I mean, the U.S. is going to win every single year. The same with gymnastics. It's either the U.S. or China every single year. Maybe Russia or Ukraine, but for the most part, like literally, you could have Germany, the U.S., the U.K. You could have, Greece. You could see Alex Kazakis winning it. You could have China. You could have Taipei. You could have Singapore. You could name probably 40 countries where you just pick the best player from each one of them, and you could basically say this player could absolutely win the Olympics. I mean, that just doesn't happen across other sports. I feel like, for the most part, you can look at the Olympics and you can basically say, all right, let's put it this way: like, pick a sport, and I'll name 5 countries, and you can have the field in those, almost across the board when it comes to the Olympics. I'll take 5 countries, you can have the field, and let's bet it up. I mean, that's the one thing about pool is, maybe you could even do that with pool, but I'll tell you what, if you take Germany, the US, who else you want? The UK,
Philippines.
probably, the Philippines, and Chinese Taipei. Are you going to give me the field? Because I'll take the field.
Yeah.
I'll take a Sanjin from Bosnia, and I don't remember his country's name, but Bosnia and something, right? I'll take Sanjin Pelovanovic. I'll take Viktor Zelinsky. I'll take a Wojtek Szewczak. I'll take maybe the Koch brothers. You can't name 5 countries that have a dominance. You just can't do it. I mean, so that's one of the pros I would say about the Olympics is of course you still have to sell this, and you have to sell almost the March Madness type of randomness to the idea of it. I mean, you're still going to have your best players, of course, at the end, but the best players there's 20 of them, and all 20 of them pretty much come from 18 different countries. At the end of the day, we haven't even said anything about like Austria. I mean, or Spain. Like, there's so many great players from so many different countries. It's spread out so basically thin in each country that there's so many that can win. All right, so that's a great pro. The con is, like you said, the organization of it is. Well, for one, the cons is it really a sport? 3 years ago when I started this podcast, I always said that pool is not a sport, and I say it's
the
not
Olympic
a sport.
Games, though. It's the Olympic Games.
Well, correct, sure, but I always said 3 years ago that pool is not a sport, and I've come full circle on that, because the only players now that do well are the players who take care of themselves and they treat it as a sport. Their diet is correct. They're working out. They're staying in shape. They're working on everything. They are treating it as a sport. In the 90s, the average weight of a pool player was probably like 250. Like, now it's 160 and pretty trim. I mean, you look at the players who are doing the best, and it's players like Albin, who treats his entire life like a workout. It's Joshua Filler, who stays in great shape. It's Alex Kazak. These are the type of players that are winning these events, and they're all treating it as a sport. So is the game itself a sport? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean that you can't treat it as a sport. And if you treat it as a sport, by default, it kind of becomes a sport in my mind. So, with that being said, I don't think that that's a con anymore, but the organization is always going to come back to it. Is at the end of the day, do I think that WPA has enough standing with the IOC to be able to get it to the credibility that it would need to be there?
But they're doing joint bids, though, right? So they did a joint bid for snooker and pool.
Well,
for Paris 26 or whatever, whenever the Paris Olympics is.
And I've made this argument in the past too, that I feel like snooker belongs in the Olympics before pool does, because it actually has an organized body with an actual credible, loyal fan base. But then that doesn't the pros of that. It's like, who's gonna win? Which country is gonna win snooker? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a U and rhymes with K, right?
Well, it's not a matter of who's going to win. It's a matter of global participation in terms of whether the IOC has any interest in it at all. So snooker would, to me, have the least interest to the IOC as far as a worldwide, fascination.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. That to me is why the UK.
Yeah, so pool to me offers them the broadest reach in terms of a cue sport. As far as athletes go, you were talking about pool being a sport and you have to be athletic. To me, it's a sport because it's you reach a level that not many people can reach, and it's all based on precision and creativity and things like that. No different than, I'm sure I'm going to hear from all the rifle shooting advocates now in the Olympics, on biathlon or whatever. Shooting a rifle to me is it's a precision sport. Pool is a precision sport. So to me, they're sports. That's not a big deal.
I'm okay with the rifle sports too, because like at its very heart, what is the Olympics? Well, at its very heart, it is a true test of the survival skills needed to survive and thrive, right? It's hunting, gathering things. Basically, at its bare minimum, that's what the Olympics started as. And shooting is kind of that. I mean, if it's not guns, it's archery. And if it's, guns is just the next iteration of archery, right?
Yeah,
So
but
I'm okay with shooting sports because at the bare bones of what it started at, it's hunting and gathering.
I'm just comparing them as athletes to pool players as
Sure.
athletes. I mean, it's not what's not a huge difference. But yeah.
I think pools. I mean, do I think that pool is worthy? I'm getting closer to there because I feel like pool is actually getting its act together, and it's I think that there are a lot of strides being made towards organization, transparency, all that good stuff. And there's
its biggest issue to me is as a group, as a WCBS, is presenting to the IOC a really compelling argument. Okay, and for that, you just can't say there's a million people who play pool. You need a lot more numbers. You need a lot more numbers. It's one thing that pool has always been horrible at, is really being able to quantify the size of their industry from participation standpoint and a sales standpoint. So, when you're going to make a presentation to the IOC about why your sport should be included, that's a pretty big ask. I mean,
but they want to see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, they want to see good governance though as well, right? So that
that's all to me. That's all part of good governance, is knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, knowing who you represent. That's a big part of it.
But the decision now and I'm moving on to something else, but we can probably drop it and then come back to it. But the decision for the WCBS to let Russian and Belarus athletes play under a neutral flag, the IOC, they haven't decided to do that yet. So that's probably a governance issue when the IOC look at it and say, why did you do it? I mean, if you look at the WCBS statement on it, it says, we sat around a table, we decided, job done. They haven't kind of articulated why they've made that choice. That doesn't look like good governance from the outside looking in.
Well, I think that they said that they made that choice because they didn't think pool and politics should mix together.
I don't see that on their website when I looked. I don't see that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was the argument that they gave me when they were, after they had made the decision, was that they realized that, pool and politics shouldn't be, and because, if they were just going to go by the war, it could be 10 years before they were out of it. So their original decision was based on the IOC.
I hate that argument though, because that's such a cop out. Like if pool and politics don't match, then why are you not letting them play under their own flag? Like you can't in one breath say that pool and politics can't mix, and not let them play under their country's flag. You're trying to argue both sides of it. It just doesn't make sense.
But say pool and politics don't mix. That's a single sentence. That doesn't articulate how you've come to the decision. And I'm a member of the WPA, and you guys are probably members of all sorts of other things that link into the WPA or members of it itself. But there'll be plenty of people that don't want to know. But I would like to know how they came to the decision to do that. I don't know whether they'll ever articulate it or not.
Well, I would assume the answer is because they got enough pressure from people saying, why aren't these players being allowed to play? And they just, I mean, at the end of the day, there's no real good answer. Like the answer, of course, is because we have to try to hold the Russian and Belarusian governments accountable for their actions in Ukraine and the surrounding areas. Like at some point in time, like they believe that is going to have to, you're applying pressures in any sort of way that you can, whether it be sanctions, whether it be sanctioning your citizens, your athletes, whatever it is. Like, obviously that's the decision that went into this to begin with. With that being said, if you're undoing it now with the idea that pool and politics don't mix, well, they did 3 months ago. And if you're still not letting them play under their flag, then obviously it still does now, just not enough to where you're going to ban them still. Like it.
You're not going to let them celebrate the country. If you're saying that Federer has nothing to do with his government's role in invading Ukraine, that's fine. that, let Federer play. But I also understand the side of it, but we really don't want you waving a Moscow flag around here. And that's essentially, I mean, the IOC has done that. I think even the EPBF, I think in the last couple of years, they haven't really played under a Russian flag in pool because of the doping ban, because of the doping problems that Russia got pinned with. So they were playing under a Russian Olympic Committee flag, right? So, there's small tokens like that I think are, they're fine with me. I don't have I'm not going to debate those all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking a stance either way. I'm just saying, like, they made a decision that was popular at the time, and as time wanes on, it becomes less and less popular, and they decided to go against it. They're basically just throwing up their flag, and whichever wind's blowing, they're going with that. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. They can come up with all the justifications that they want, but saying pool and politics don't match, well, they did 3 months ago, and
they
were okay with it then.
They did, and I think that their decision then was based on, the first people who came out and banned athletes was the World Games. When this first started happening in Ukraine, before the IOC even made a statement, the World Games made its statement that athletes from those countries weren't allowed to come. Then the IOC makes a statement saying we recommend our sport federations follow suit. Okay, if you're a lowly IOC member like the WCBS was, and everybody else is following suit, and you're worried about, calling them out on it and having them slap you down or say, now your chance of getting the Olympics are not, so you maybe make that decision then. And then over time you look at it and say, okay, this could go on forever. We think that, that this statement was made early on, and all athletes from, Russia got no pats on the back for its athletes for the last 6 months. Now we got to let these guys play because this could go on forever and, indefinitely. So, I don't think it's strictly a matter of just blowing with the wind. I think that there was some thought put into each decision, the one then and the one now. And, I'm glad these kids are playing again. That's all. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The only thing I'm saying is both of those decisions were the easy one to make in the moment, right? I mean, there was a back February 23rd when Russia invaded Ukraine. Like the easy decision to make for the IOC was to make that decision, right? To ban them. And now, because it's been 4 or 5 months, almost 4 days away from 5 months, we're getting to the point now where, we're making this might be 10 years. I mean, you said it yourself. This might be 10 years. This might be 5 years. The point is, we don't know when this is going to end. Can we continue punishing all these players? Well, now the winds have changed, and now the easy political decision is to say, all right, we'll let the players play.
At least the WCBS is making this decision on its own for the Q sports. Okay, the IOC hasn't changed anything. So, and I don't think the IOC will, because now you're talking about a lot bigger scale of Russia's involvement in sports when you get into gymnastics and you get into basketball and you get into all this other stuff. So yeah, if you're going to try to limit someone from, you saw it with Wimbledon. I mean, the woman who won Wimbledon was from Moscow, who plays for Kazakhstan or whatever now, and Moscow tried to take credit for it. So that this stuff is important to them, right? So that's the political game that they're playing within sports, even though we say politics doesn't. They are trying to have some impact on it. So
all I'm saying is all of this is like just don't insult our intelligence by saying pool and politics don't mix. Don't make that your argument to justify them getting back in, when that was your same exact argument to keep them out 5 months ago. Like, that was the exact reason you kept them out 5 months ago. And now you're saying,
would you have rather them not change it?
I would rather them just say, well, this is what it is. This might go on for 10 years. This might go on for 5 years. We don't know. We don't feel that it's necessary to punish these players for this reason any longer. Because that's exactly what it is. I mean, they're not making, you just can't make the argument that pool and politics don't mix when that was the same exact justification you used 5 months ago to ban them to begin with. It just, you're insulting our intelligence from it. I just, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like I'm just pointing out their hypocrisy on the ruling, but like it's really not that big of a deal. We're all happy that they're playing again. I mean, Fedor and Christina and Margaret, they're all amazing people. They have amazing futures. They're all amazing players now, and they will be into the future, on and off the table. Like we love them. We love watching them play. We're happy that they're back. But I'm talking strictly about pool and politics don't match or don't mix, but they absolutely did 5 months ago, and that was your justification. It's just weird to me that you'd make that argument both ways to justify both sides of the argument. I don't know. Chris, anything?
No,
I think we've worn this one out.
yeah, probably. But Kelly won again, right? Well, games. Kelly won again.
Yeah. That was she was fantastic. I did get to see the final because it was the one thing that they actually aired. But I thought that this would be there would be a chance that she wouldn't get through because you had a couple of top Asian women playing there, who are really good to start with, and who she hasn't, played much in the last couple of years. So I thought that there might be just a little bit something there. And when she got behind 4-1 in the final, I thought, well, this girl looks like she's playing pretty well. This could be it. And then Kelly she played so wonderfully the whole second half of that match. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, she's a different level right now for sure.
I mean, as far as some of the Asian women, it was really nice to see Yuki Hiraguchi back. She's like such a breath of fresh air. She's just so funny, so lively, so personable. Everything that she does just makes me smile. It's so awesome seeing her back.
She's great.
I mean, Josh Filler wins too. I mean, is there anything else we want to talk about on the women's side of things? I mean,
no, I mean, it was tough, tough for Jennifer and Monica, both lost on the hill in their opening matches. It was kind of rough to watch. And then in the men's division, obviously Tyler having a 10-6 lead on Josh and losing that opening match was a crusher. And the minute that match was over, that's when I thought, well, Josh is winning this tournament for sure. When you get, he's one of those guys that, if he gets that, if you give him that little sliver to get through when he wasn't supposed to get through, then you had your chance, and now you're toast.
Yeah. I think that's Kelly's 9th tournament win in a row, right?
I don't know. Just tell me how many tournaments there have been in the last 2 years, and I'll tell you how many she's won.
No, it's like 9 and 9 over 5 months or something crazy.
And
she's won,
and she's lost one set.
Yeah,
I mean, that was it.
She lost a set to Allison Fisher. That's it, right?
Yeah. So undefeated and everything else she's been in, which is ridiculous. Which I'll tell you what, we inducted her in the Hall of Fame last year, and it's really frustrating when you induct someone into the Hall of Fame and you have to completely redo their resume like a year later because they've won more tournaments in the last year than they did in the 10 years before that.
Well, this is actually a conversation I wouldn't mind having too about Kelly, especially. I mean, you look, it's like, of course, pool doesn't get the coverage that other sports get. So and there's other sports that, I'll never know anything about. Maybe there's like a female dart player who's dominating like this too. But you look across all sports, any sport that you want to look at, does any woman dominate their sport even in their prime like Kelly is doing right now? Serena Williams has never won 9 straight events.
I would argue Allison. Allison in her heyday was, to me, the greatest woman athlete in the world in terms of because the competition was really stiff during all those years in the WPBA, and they had a lot of tournaments. And for her to win, 50 tour titles was, I've never seen anything like it. That was, but what Kelly's doing is pretty close to that, as far as dominance. Like I said, last couple of years, the field hasn't been as open and as difficult as it has been in the past, and as it could be if everybody was playing. So I don't know, it's hard to say what her dominance would have been had all these fields been full of the top players from all around the world. So, but not taking anything away from her. She's one of the greatest players ever, for sure.
I'm just talking about, like, well, I mean, you're looking at kind of a career. I'm just looking at like a 1 year stretch. I mean, she's lost one match in a year. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think that you could really take a step back. And of course, the Chinese players aren't there, the Asian players aren't there, the Filipinos aren't there. But like, if if Serena Williams went a year losing one match, could you imagine like the coverage that would get? And like, if you do like the calendar Grand Slam, it's considered the greatest thing that's ever happened, basically, in tennis. And I'm only using tennis because I think that Serena Williams, for my money, my uneducated opinion, is probably the best female athlete of all time. You could give me an argument, and I'd probably just say, "All right, you're right." But for my money, Serena Williams jumps to mind when I think of the greatest female athletes of all time. And did she ever do the calendar Grand Slam? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
I guess
think so.
But like, I know that she's never gone a year only losing one match. Like, I don't know. That's just, is this something I'm just dwelling on too much? You guys think? Like, I just think that this is like, she is not getting the credit that she deserves for the crazy run that she's been on. This has never been done for my money in anything ever. Maybe Allison, but Allison didn't go. Maybe Allison's competition was tougher, but Allison didn't go a year only losing one match.
No, but she won a year winning a lot of tournaments.
Yeah.
You could pick a couple of her top years and look at them and say, well, that was pretty stupid. But I mean, you're splitting hairs here. You're talking about two of the best women to ever hold a Q. And from an athlete standpoint, yeah, I put them up against anybody.
Chris, anything? No, nothing more to add there. She just, I think if she can go really, really deep in one of the men's matchroom events, go really deep. If she can make the last 16 in one of those like the rest of the year, maybe it will attract coverage and people will look back on the last 6 months and say, people from the outside might look in and say, wow, look at this person. And she might get a ton of credit that we don't even recognize as being possible now. But
who's the blonde woman dart player that has got
Fallon Sherrick? Yeah. So Fallon Sherrick won like 2 games at the World Championships, I think, and she blew up over here.
She did.
I think probably in the grand scheme of things, Kelly might be a better pool player than she is a dart
player.
Possibly. Possibly. Thank God there's no darts fans watching this. They'd murder me. But if she can just do one big thing in one of the men's events throughout the rest of the year, she might just get a bunch of credit and attention that is bigger than anything going on in the sport. It might kind of operate outside of the sport for a little bit if she can do that.
Yeah, I'd be glad to see that.
Well, if Matchroom and Predator can stop scheduling their events on top of each other, maybe we'll see her in a few more of them. What, the Germany Open and what was the Matchroom event that was scheduled over the World Cup pool? But
the World Cup. That's it. World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup. I mean, but she was. I mean, she would have played in that. She would have been the representative or one of the representatives. To be honest, she probably would have ended up playing with Jason, right? I mean, on paper, she's got to be ranked higher than Elliot.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think
cool.
so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Ranking wise, she has to be higher. Ranking wise, Elliot's only played like 2 Matchroom events, maybe.
Yeah, he's like 68th or something. I'm like 72nd, and I think Kelly might be. I think she was like 10 behind us at one point. We did look at it all when we were at a tournament because we were trying to see. We were just trying to project who would be going in. Yeah, I don't know where she stands and things now. After the UK Open, she may well be higher than both of us. I don't know.
Sure. Well, I guess, is there anything else we want to talk about for the women's side of things? The World Games?
Nope.
Okay, well then let's head over to the men's side where Joshua Filler continues his dominance over the men's. So he beats Sanjin Pelovanovic in the finals, and that was actually a really good match. I think it was at 8-8 at one point in time. Sanjin missed maybe it was a kind of easy. I think it was a 6-ball or 4-ball maybe, and then Josh wins the last 3 racks there. I guess I ended up watching it. Like I feel like it was somebody's pirated stream. I felt like I was just watching somebody's.
Yeah, there was a kind of a pirated stream of that, and then you could watch it later on the kind of Olympic Channel feed that was in there. Yeah, the only one that I watched it was live when it was happening was Kelly's. But I did watch a little bit of Josh and Sanjin later. One thing I will say was the camera work was really good.
It was
really, really good. Matchroom should watch the Kelly match and the Josh match and look at how they handle things, because I thought that the television, the announcing, not so great, but I thought
the camera announcing. The
they
pirated
did,
one that didn't have any sound.
Yeah, no, the Kelly match. There was a British announcer. I don't know if he had much snooker background, but he was just by himself. There was no color commentary. It was just him kind of announcing, and he just said some really weird things, like talking about how pool is this cute little game because you can put a table into your basement or into your living room and put a dining room top on it and eat off it. It's not like a snooker table or carom table. I'm thinking, oh, for Pete's sake, dude. But anyways, yeah, the colors was, but the camera, like I said, the camera work was to me spot on.
Well, I think that's a luxury of having, the budget that they do, because at the end of the day, really really all that Matchroom's production is 2 people holding rolling cameras, and then the one big boom camera that kind of can move all the way around on one side of it, and then an overhead camera, and that's really and then they have a standard camera of like the normal angle coming out. So they have 5 cameras, but they're really, because of the way that they do their production, they all have to be on one side.
To me, it's about direction. I mean, I love I was watching those matches, and what caught me was, the way they were zeroing in on emotions and close in on the faces and the things like that. That's all that's direction. It's not how many cameras you have or how good the camera is. It's how good the cameramen are and how good the director is telling them what to shoot and telling people what to put on the air. So I just thought that they did a really good job with that.
I agree. I thought that looked like a professional sport. Like that looked just as similar to, let's say, baseball than I've ever seen pool look like.
Yeah, it was great.
Where a batter completely whiffs at a curveball, and the next thing you know is you're zooming in on their face and they're looking complex, like what the heck, what did I just see? And they're really good at that stuff. I thought the production was amazing. Douglas Bird asked the question, what is keeping Simming Chen in China? I mean, as far as I understand, it's not impossible to get out of China, but it's like super, super difficult to get out of China. And then to get back in is just as hard. There's like I know at one point in time, there was a mandatory 3-week quarantine for coming into the country. And that's, COVID restrictions. It's just to go to one of these events. I would guess that they have to have almost 2 months worth of before and after quarantining to get out. So it's the juice isn't worth the squeeze to get out to any of these events.
Yeah.
And that's assuming they even can. I don't know what the restrictions are as inside of the country for, like, can you get out to play pool even if you wanted to? I don't know.
I don't know. Did she play? I should know this, but did she play in the SEA Games? Did she play in the Southeast Asia Games?
I don't think so.
Is China even in the SEA Games?
I don't think so. No, I don't think any of them.
No.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Hopefully soon. So,
we'll see. I mean, China, when they have a flare up, I mean, they just literally shut down their entire city.
Yeah, so, Shanghai was just closed for like 6 or 8 weeks or something. Everybody stay indoors, mandate, not allowed to leave your house.
Yeah, there's some horror stories that come out from that too. So, I guess Josh Filler wins over Sanjin Pelovanovic. We love the production. Aloysius Yap beats Carlo Beato for the.
That was great. I loved seeing that. I loved seeing Yap get the bronze medal. I know it meant a lot to him. I think that's got to help him a lot in Singapore with with government funding, federation funding,
Absolutely,
things
yeah.
like that. So I think that's it was great. It was great to see him finish third.
Yep. It was awesome. I mean, honestly, it was awesome for Sanjin too. That I saw a Facebook post that said, and I don't know I don't know the rest of his country. It's Bosnia. Something.
Herzegovina.
Sorry,
yeah, Herzegovina.
Herzegovina.
Okay. And that was the first ever. That medal was the first ever World Games medal that they had won, which is pretty
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, that should make him a bit of a local celebrity. I would think it's only going to help.
Hope so. Yeah, you would hope.
It's only
so.
going to help Poole in his country, I would think.
Right.
But
and that's where all this international stuff comes into play.
Yeah, and Poole is like just such a great representative for this because like literally I could go down a list of every single European country, and I bet this might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I don't know that we wouldn't be able to find half of the countries with a representative that could theoretically win something like this.
Or win a medal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, could you see like a Dennis Graba winning one? Yeah, he's won Euro Tours. I mean,
yeah.
What about like Victor Zielinski? Obviously, Spain, obviously the UK, obviously Germany, obviously the Netherlands, obviously Italy, maybe probably not. But Estonia, Lithuania, sure. Pius Labutis could win something. I would think.
Got to go through all these things and cut down Italy. Nice.
Well,
nice.
I mean. I love. Well, I'm just thinking of like the big countries.
We get it enough when people talk about. We get it enough when people talk about war. I don't need to hear about it in Poole too. All right.
I love Frank Andela. Frank Andela can win. All right. But I'm just trying to go through like the big countries, and Austria is obviously can win.
You haven't even left Europe yet.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, just going through all of the countries in Europe, half of them I bet could send a representative that could medal. Yeah, that's why Poole would be a perfect representative for the Olympics because the drama of having all of these countries in place with a real chance of winning, you can't get that in basketball. You can't get that in gymnastics. You can't get that in diving and swimming and track and field. You just can't get that. Poole, you can absolutely get. It's a perfect petri dish for just randomness. It's. I mean, of course, you're still going to have your Joshua Fillers and your Albin Oceans and your Shane Van Bonings that are going to win more often than not. But I would like to see the amount of medals that Sanjin's country has won ever in the Olympics. I bet it's single digits. This theoretically could have been another one. But anyways, moving on. I guess we all love the idea of the production. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to highlight from this? Nope. Good. Nope. Okay.
FYI, all-time Bosnia and Herzegovina 0 Olympic medals.
And this was the first ever World Game. So congratulations.
Yeah.
They just went
huge.
They just got their first ever. And Sanjin Pelovanovic is absolutely live. There's no reason I think he was up 8-6 on Josh. There's no reason he can't beat him.
Yeah.
This would be a perfect petri dish if we could just get our act together as a sport across the world. This would be a perfect Olympic sport if we could just clean it up a little bit, get some professionalism in it, and make it happen. It'd be perfect. How awesome would it be to see like Hong Kong, what's his Loho Sum or the other
Capito, Robbie Capito.
Robbie Capito. Like, how great would it be to see like Hong Kong win something like a medal? Or like, I can't imagine they have gymnastics and stuff that they're probably pretty good at, but still, I mean, there's a lot of countries that Mike make it happen.
If you want
get on medal, that WPBA,
put Poole
get on that
agenda.
WPA board. Get on that WPA board and start doing some stuff, Mike. Make it happen.
This is not something that the board's going to make happen. This is something that someone is going to have to come in with some really deep pockets and a lot of volunteer work and set up, a plan, a structured plan to, barrage the IOC with, voting members with why this should be in the Olympics or a an organizing committee for an upcoming Olympic, like they tried with France. It's a tough thing to do. It costs a lot of money to compete with the sports that are trying to get in there, all doing their song and dance, dog and pony show. It's a hard thing. I mean, I've been in the bowling business for a lot of years, and bowling spent a lot of money in the 80s trying to get into the Olympics, and they were a demonstration sport once when it was in Seoul, and that was huge. But it was one and done. Never really got beyond that. And I know how much money they spent back then. It was big numbers. So this isn't something where you just, throw a pamphlet on the IOC's desk and everybody says, "Oh God, how did we miss this for the last 85 years?"
Of course.
There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot to go, but you can always hope, and you can always keep swinging, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, is there anything else we wanted to talk about today? I don't even remember what else was on my docket.
WPBA.
Oh, the WP. Well, I don't know. I just think the press releases.
We're talking about Federer. I just think that it's great that Christina and Margaret are able to play. The WPBA is officially said yes, they're welcome to be members and play. I mean, I wasn't 100% sure how that was going to wash out because Christina had signed up to be a WPBA member this year, and then asked for them to refund her and take away her membership because she wasn't going to be able to play, and this would allow her to play in other things. And I wondered, does this fall into April Larson category and yada yada. But they've seen fit to just open the door to Christina and Margaret and let them play. What is interesting?
Right.
I'm sorry.
I think that has to be the right decision, right? I mean, think of the the backlash they got from April. Think of the backlash we're going to get from trying.
Well, and it was it was pretty obvious that they were going to vote this way right away. I mean, there were WPBA board members who, in the last couple of days, were posting online, "Can't wait to see you" and all this stuff. So I think that their vote was a pretty foregone conclusion.
I just think it's kind of funny, the wording of it.
I just think it was a pretty poorly written press release, but that's just me. What is interesting to me is that Federer can now play in these events, but he's not going to play in the European Open. And Christina and Margaret can play in events, and they're not going to play in Canada. And that's all visa related. It's all. Okay. So they've got things that they've got to be concerned about. I mean, if Federer's going through this process of trying to get a working visa, he doesn't want to leave the U.S. and try to get back in. And both Margaret and Christina have working visas, full O1 visas, but they both are applying for green cards. And so once you apply for a green card, your O1 visa basically disappears. And so while you're in this process of going through the green card, you've kind of changed your priority, your application. You can't leave the country. I think they can play.
You can continue to work though whilst you're
in the U.S. But you don't want to leave the U.S.
Yeah.
I believe that they can both play in Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is U.S. territory.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to go through customs to get there or back.
Correct. So that's so that's great. It's great that they're playing again. Can't wait to see them. You throw Margaret and Christina into the mix, and Kelly's road to the finals gets a little bit harder, right?
And it's only Margaret and Christina that are allowed to play in.
No, any Russian, any Russian or Bosnian or any European,
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, but so are they in the same kind of situation as April Larson, where?
No, completely different situation according to the WPBA.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess the reference that we were talking about at the beginning, the press release that you said was kind of awkward, is given the recent decision by the WCBS and member federations, the WPBA board unanimously agreed to lift the ban on Russian and Belarusian athletes. Why do you need it? Why even put in the unanimously?
Unanimously? Well, I just think that everybody likes to write unanimously when they announce a vote so that it looks like we were all on the same page.
Yeah.
There was no dissension. It took us 3 seconds to come up with this answer because we all know it's the right thing to do. If they said it was a split decision, then we'd be arguing about what kind of idiots on the board are saying that it shouldn't have happened. So unanimous is always a good word to use. People love using that in board votes, because it shows solidarity and unity and all that kind of stuff. What I thought was that the weird thing was that it went right into the next section of, sentence of, you can see all the WPA players at the next event. I'm like, well, what is this, a marketing tool or a press release? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. It seemed a little bit weird, but I guess it makes sense. It's just, so yeah, I guess Kelly's gonna have a little bit. Well, she just gained. I would think that both of these players play a little bit ahead of Allison right now, so she just gained her second and third. Probably,
I think they're probably about on the same par. Yeah, I mean, it just makes it just a little bit tougher for everybody. And I tell you what, Kelly would be the last person I would think would be worried about that. I think she wants stiffer competition. I think she wants tougher players in there. I think she wants the fields to be tougher. So that's great. I mean, that's if you're a champion, that's your mindset.
Love it. Getting the proper fields back. I like it. I wish. Yep. I mean, I wish I wish there was more incentive for some of the European ladies that frequent the EPBF events to have incentive to come over here to play in more of the WPBA.
I think they're making a concerted effort to do that now, and I think a lot of that has to do with Predator adding events that are like in Europe and in Puerto Rico and in Canada and things like that. They're trying to develop that a little bit more. So I think between Predator and the WPBA, there are a lot more invitations going out there and a lot more pressure being, not pressure, but, suggestions being put out to the European players. We've got all these events. They're in Canada, in the US, they're in Europe, they're in Puerto Rico, join the tour and let's make women's pool great. So I think there is a little more effort being put into that right now.
Yep. There's good opportunities going forward. I guess that's really all I had to talk about today. Anything you guys got pressing on your mind?
No.
Nope.
Yes or no question? Yes or no question. Does Fedor make Team Europe? Mike?
No.
Chris?
No.
I say yes.
Well, then you're banking on him winning the U.S. Open.
I'm banking on him getting a wild card.
Oof. You're not going to get a wild card if he doesn't win the U.S. Open, and he's not playing in the European.
I still think he'll get a wild card.
Wow. All right.
At the end of the day, who's going to qualify? Josh is qualified basically no matter what at this point. It looks like Sanchez Ruiz is probably going to qualify. The third spot's kind of up in the air, but I guess. Well,
you can pretty much, everybody pretty much pencils in Jason, Albin, Josh, and Francisco, right? So you do have that one wild card open.
I think it goes to Fedor.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be really surprised if Alex would do that.
I think even though they won last year, I think Alex was regretting his pick of not taking Fedor.
And he felt like he had to take, because he went with the merit pick, which was Kachi winning the World 10 Ball. So I don't know that he looks at all the other players in Europe and says, I realize, boys, you beat each other up for a whole year for this fifth spot, but I'm going to give it to the guy who didn't play until October and didn't win an event. I just don't see him doing that. How about you, Chris?
No, I'm exactly on the same page as you. I couldn't see him doing it, and I think Alex Lely will be looking at the guys who have competed at the highest level for the entire year. Yeah. That's not to say that Fedor isn't playing at the same level, but he will be looking at the guys that have competed at the highest level.
I think Fedor's playing at a higher level than, say, David or someone like that, but still, I think he's going to reward those guys because that's a tough It's a tough thing to explain to those players, and then you're going to be captain again next year, and you're going to have lost trust with people. I think that
Do
he
you really
could pick
think he
a David.
loses trust for that?
I do.
He'd struggle to
Why?
explain that. He'd struggle to explain that decision.
Yeah, he would.
Unless there's something really obvious that Mike and I are missing. But
I think it explains itself. Who are you going to argue is a better player that you could take over him? A better player. I'm not saying a more deserving player. I'm saying a better player.
I just think that if you're a player like David who's finished really high in a lot of events this year, you're saying, wait a second, I played pretty damn good too. Don't tell me that he's a better player than me right now.
David Al-Qaeda.
Is it a betting favorite in Vegas? That's one thing, but you're picking a team.
David Al-Qaeda's not even in the top 10.
So who are the top 10 Europeans?
Well, I mean, if you want to go Europeans, maybe, but it's Shane Van Boning's number 1, Joshua Filler,
No, we're talking about
Albin. I'm looking at the list right here. It's Shane's number 1, Josh, Francisco, Albin, Kazakis, Oliver Solnaki, Victor Zielinski, Mario He, and Jason Shaw. So there's at least 8 Europeans ahead of him.
Okay. All right, so it doesn't have to be David. I'm not saying it has to be David. I'm just pulling a name out of my head.
There's a ton of other guys then that are even more.
Well, I think we all agree that Albin, Francisco, and Josh are in, right? I think we can all agree on that. We think that the 2-time Mosconi Cup MVP defending.
All that goes out the window. All that goes out the window if Albin or Jason are not both second and third in points, right?
Sure. Yeah.
If one of those guys is not second or third in points, that or if Francisco, if one of them is not third, because say Francisco's one to do. If there's 2 points guys that aren't Albin and Jason, then you're done, right?
Yeah. I'm actually looking at the going past 10. Niels
so you would take so let me ask you this, Nate. Say someone else, Oliver, someone sneaks in on the points. So it's Josh, Oliver for sake of whatever, and Francisco is the point the point thing.
Then Fedor does not make it. Then yes.
What, you don't take Fedor over Albin?
No,
Fedor's not a better player than Albin.
I don't know that he is.
Okay.
I think he is, but I don't know that he is. I know that Fedor is a better player than David.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know that Albin is behind Fedor, and if he is, I don't know that it's by a lot at all. Especially on that matchroom table under those lights, right?
He might pick Wojciech. He just won the World 10 ball, right?
I wish he does. I
hope he does.
I love it.
he might pick Wojciech. But
the David, 10 ball's not helping him.
David just beat.
It helped Eklund.
David just beat Denis Orcolo, race to 63, right? Somewhere in the Philippines, and he's playing Carlo next, like tomorrow or Friday or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't snooze on Arcade.
Well, I don't know. I think that was more of an exhibition than it was a real matchup, though.
It's one big event.
Yeah, but I mean, if like just going through the rest of this list, number 11 is Niels, number 12 is Max Lechner, 14 is Dimitri Jungo, 15 is Eklund. This is the matchroom rankings. This is the matchroom rankings. Yeah. So 14 is Dimitri Jungo, 15 is Eklund, 16 is Darren Appleton, 17 is David Al-Qaeda, 18 is Torsten Holman, 20 is Wojtek Szewczak.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that if somehow Oliver Solnaki sneaks up into the top 3, then Fedor doesn't make it. But I'm saying based off of Francisco, Albin, and Josh getting the 3 spots, I think that Fedor will get the 5th. I mean, this is assuming that he plays, has a decent showing at the U.S. Open. Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to pick him, it's hard to go all the way down to number 17 to get to David Al-Qaeda, which is kind of the natural.
Like I said, I just threw out a name, David Al-Qaeda. It could be anybody. It could be
Victor.
It could be Kazakis. It could be anybody.
It could be Wojciech. But there's three of the biggest events of the year still to come. There's a lot of distance between now and the team being picked.
What are the 3? I mean, there's the U.S. Open, there's the European,
and the international. I think the international
was the international count for the European.
Well, it's going to be on the matchroom list. I'd assume that winning that.
It's on the list, but I don't know if it's for this year or next year.
Well, hold on.
It's on the list for this year. The matchroom, the schedule.
These are the
No,
remaining
I mean,
events.
as far as the points, does it apply to this year's
Yeah.
points or
Yeah.
next year's points?
This
This
year's,
is-
yeah.
This is the remaining events. The Euro Tour in Petric, the Euro Tour in Slovenia, Sandcastle 9-Ball Open, the US Open Pool Championships, the International Open, the European Open, and the Euro Tour Treviso. Those are the rest of the events for this year.
And obviously the three big ones I called out are the ones with decent prize money in comparison to the Euro.
Yeah, you
Tour.
can move
The
you
US
can move the
US
needle
Open
with
will
one of
have-
those
Yeah.
events. Yeah.
If you win the US Open, you're in. Because it's probably $60,000 for first, and currently third place is 31,000. So it's hard to imagine that Albin's going to double that. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
But 60,000 right now would put you $2,000 behind Josh Filler, just for winning one event. So halfway through the season, if you double everybody's, maybe just winning that doesn't get you enough, but maybe. I guess, yeah. I mean, Fedor's not going to be playing any of the Euro tours. I'm sure he'll play the Sandcastle 9-Ball Open, the US Open, the International Open, and that's it. So I guess, yeah, I mean, he can only play in 3 events. So, but I guess I'm just looking at this, and if my options, so let's just say that the top 3 are fixed, Josh, Francisco, and Albin, and you have the option to then, because I just don't see how you can pick somebody outside the top 10, right? Well, I mean, how can you pick 14, like Dmitry Yungo or something like that, and skip over Kazakis, Oliver Solnaki, Victor Zielinski, Mario He, Jason Shaw, Niels? Well, we think Jason will get in. Niels Fine, Max Lechner. How can you pick him and skip over all those? Right. So I think you still have to be probably in the top 10. I would think. So, are you going to take
top 10 players? Yeah.
Are you going to take, if you have the option to take Alex Kazakis, Oliver Solnaki, Victor Zielinski, Mario He, Niels Fine, or Fedor? You could see naturally how you would take Fedor if you're trying to put your best team out there, not your most deserving team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's my argument. I think that I personally I would probably, if all ended today, I would pick the top 3, obviously, but I pick Victor Zielinski and Jason Shaw. That'd be my team.
Well, your obvious bias for Poland is well noted.
Well, no, if I was going to be biased, I'd take Victor, and yeah, I know I like Poland. I'm an honorary member of their team, Polska.
Nice.
No, I don't know. This is why it's fun. I think you can have these conversations and it can be fun.
Yeah,
well,
of course.
Next time around, we should just have our teams ready. Each of us pick our 5 from each side, and you post them somewhere, Nate, and we'll see who is closer to being correct at the end of
well,
when the teams are actually
there
picked.
you go.
We all agree on 4. So who's your 5th?
For Europe.
Yeah, we already all of our 4 are the same, right? It's Josh,
assuming
Francisco,
Jason gets
Albin,
in,
and
yeah.
Jason. Yeah.
Assuming Alex picks Jason.
Jason has to be one, right?
For like everything, yeah. He's got to be there.
Everybody agrees on 4. So who's your 5th?
Someone's going to do that list that you have there is we're only at the halfway point. There's still a ton of pool left to be played. I think that.
No, who's your 5th?
I think that. Well, I think that Appleton will get really far in one of the remaining tournaments. Really far. I think he's got I think he'll get to a quarter or a semi of one of them, or maybe 2. I think he can. Maybe he can win one again. Maybe.
Wow.
So you're saying Darren?
That's a bold statement.
I think he can. I think he can win one again. Yeah.
And I have a bias towards Poland.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. But that's just an example. There is a ton of stuff that can happen between now and the end of the year. I'm just giving you an example of one player I think will do well for the rest of the year. There are other guys that, in my opinion, doesn't matter either way. But there are other guys that are going to do really well between now and the end of the year. I'm just saying that's one that I believe will do a lot. Kazakis might do really well between now and then, take it out of everybody's hands. Same as David.
Okay, move on to Mike. He's hedging. He won't give us an answer. Who's your 5th, Mike? Give us an actual answer.
I have no clue. Too much. There's too much going on still. There's too many events.
Yeah.
There's too many big events to happen. I got to see who comes out of these next couple events.
So the only thing that you guys definitely know is that it won't be Fedor. But besides that, you have no
I just
idea.
think
But
that
it's
if I just
definitely
think that
not
if it
Fedor.
comes, I just think that if it comes down to Fedor and someone who's close up near the top of those rankings that has busted his ass off all year, I think it would be very difficult for Alex to tell him he doesn't deserve to be on the team.
Yeah, Fedor's window of opportunity to do something is
so narrow.
Yeah,
it's so narrow.
And I think
so then you're just saying you're basically saying that if you're one of the best players like Fedor, you don't have to play all year, and I'm still going to pick you. That's the message you're sending.
Well, no, you're saying that if you're banned for 6 months out of the year for something that you had nothing to do with, and you're improperly taken out of this event, and you haven't lost now an event for 6 months, sure, you're beating up a bunch of regional players and a few top amateur type pro type of players, but if you beat everybody and you're leading the money list and you're doing everything right on top of it, it's not like he's sat around and like eat Cheetos in his basement and screamed on Facebook. The guy's won everything he's played.
Yeah, no, he's top of the money list, isn't he? The AZB money list.
It's not close.
Yeah, he's like 40 grand ahead of everybody else or something.
It's not close. Like, it's not like he's sitting in his basement eating ramen noodles waiting for a call.
Maybe he's not even fussed about coming back and playing in the big events. If he can make 160, 170 grand a year,
it's going to cost him money.
Yeah, but we've asked him about that. And he can't wait to play.
Yeah, of course. I'm being flippant, but maybe there's no,
also, the International Open is not part of the points for this year's Mosconi Cup.
It's definitely not. Okay.
No. Then that means the European
says
Open.
The two players will be taken off the live 9-ball world rankings at the conclusion of the U.S. Open.
Oh.
So two players. It says two.
Yeah, because one's from their live ranking. The top player from each team from the 9-ball rankings will be selected after the European Open. So that person is already on. The next 2 point getters get to until the U.S. Open for that to be determined. Make sense?
Yeah, I just don't understand it. Why?
I don't know, but that's.
I mean, that's their
I'm
decision.
reading it off the sheet here.
I mean, maybe there's like travel stuff that they have to make sure that they get in line. But I think
that they want to like whet the appetite, so they're trying to pick somebody early so that they can announce it. So who's ever in first after the European Open, you're the automatic. You're the number one automatic guy. Now the next two automatic guys go through. We're going to add a couple more tournaments to get to that second and third automatic guy.
I get the idea of the marketing side of the things, and you're trying to but everybody knows. I mean, you've done a great job of like letting everybody know how it's going to happen. So what does it matter if you do it like 1 and then 2, or you just the final event 3 weeks before the event or whatever? Like,
well, then you'd be getting. Excuse me. Then you'd be getting. I mean, there's no piecemeal. There's no strategy to if it's the top 3 point getters, you're going to know it on one day who the 3 guys are. This way they get to spread it out a little bit.
Well, sure, but now the International Open means nothing. You don't care. It means
something for next year. It'll get you points for next year.
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
you'll be the leader in the clubhouse. You'll be the leader at the start of the year. Actually,
I love the idea of. Think of how interesting it would be if, like, you go into the International Open, which is the last one, and you know exactly like who you need to beat, and you're looking at the Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is looking at Alex Kazakis, who's $10,000 behind him, and he's counting out every single round that he has to get to.
They're going to get that at the U.S. Open.
Sure, but
same thing at the U.S. Open.
I don't. I mean, you're right, but I mean, it's like doing it with 3 different people and like having like the idea of like you're because there'll be 20 people involved at that point in time, theoretically, and maybe not 20, but like, maybe there'll be 10 people involved, and like the different situations that you could have. I mean, maybe doing it over 2 events means you get to like lengthen that out. Because I don't know. I think that's just exciting.
It's still going to be really exciting at the U.S. Open because it's such a big money event.
All right.
That one placement is going to upset a lot of apple carts, right? I mean, all of a sudden you win that match to get from the quarterfinals to the semifinals. All of a sudden your money just jumped 15,000. That's put a lot of people in the rearview mirror. So yeah, I mean, I think it's still going to be super exciting, and they get to control, the other thing with the U.S. Open is that that's their event. So they get to control the excitement at their own event, not at somebody else's.
Yeah.
Like the international,
Yeah.
right? So,
Fair point.
so control the narrative, have fun with the marketing, build up excitement, play it up on TV as these matches start going on. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a smart move, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I could see having two different ones now. Because if two different ones, it means you get two different events that you get to talk about these things on.
Yeah.
To be honest, maybe even extend it out to a third and let the last person go in from the international. That might be fun. Maybe what you can do. Well,
It's not going to happen this year, but
no,
we'll talk to them about it for next year.
it might be an interesting thing to actually to have all four of the five people announced already going into the International Open, and all you're doing is playing for that fifth spot. And if one of the wild cards, so let's say Jason Shaw gets a wild card and then ends up third in the point standings, well, that just means you get one more wild card. It might be interesting to like pick all four of the players, and this is the only way that you can get in is by leapfrogging somebody into that third spot. I think that'd be fun. Just different ways of marketing at this point in time, but I don't know. I think we've probably covered that one pretty well. I think we're all wrapped up for today. What do you guys think?
Perfect. No, it was fun.
I get to go. Oh, I get to find out if I get pre-approved for a house today.
Oh, good luck.
Boy, knock yourself out.
Yeah, so that's going to happen in a half hour. So,
Ooh.
Good luck.
Pray for me.
Where are you looking?
In Portage.
Oh,
We
nice.
have a house. We have a house that we found that's we like it. We like it. It's got a garage in back. It's got room for some tables.
Some tables, plural.
Probably 6. We probably have room for 6 pool tables in the garage in back.
Wow.
Nice.
Big garage.
Well, you heard it here, fans. Nate needs some money, so let's go. Start sharing this link. Start, buying your manscapes.
Yeah.
Send me 50. Start the Nate Fund.
Send me 50 stars. I'll take my 50 cents and throw it on a down payment.
There you go. Every cent helps.
Yeah, we're hoping. So we'll find out today. So
Good.
Exciting stuff. All right. Well, with that, I guess. I'm going to be in Illinois. I'm leaving tonight. So if you're in the Illinois area, swing by Racks on the Rocks in Peoria. Say hi to me. Buy me lots of beer, because why not? That'd be fun. And
got to have a bucket there with Nate's house fund on it. That's what you don't need beer. You need a down payment.
I'll grab some mud and just smear it on my face and just look like one of those children who are feed me. Might work. Who knows? I don't know. All right, we're clearly done here.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining again this week, and we'll see you all next week.
See you later, Chris.